Well, it's that time again. It's been just about a year, and that means it's time for the fine folks at Polymega to stick their head up out of the ground and look for their shadow. And when they do, they drop a bit of news and new product announcements for us. Last time when they did this, it was, hey, we are finally shipping these products out and look for some new updates to our OS to fix some bugs. Look for our send in light guns coming and look for the new Atari module. So it's been about a year. Where are these things and what is up? So let's just talk about it. Let's get right into it. And the first thing I wanted to do, I'm really pleased to talk about this, and that is our send-in light gun. So if you pre-ordered these from Polymega, of course, these are designed to work with your HD TV so that you can finally play those retro shooter games. So things like Duck Hunt, Operation Wolf, all those things from the past, all those PS1 light gun games, all the Dreamcast light gun games, House of the Dead, they all are now playable on the Poly Mega. And these are finally shipping after numerous years. So if you got your pre-order in several years ago, chances are you have received yours. If not, they should be coming shortly. So I just wanted to provide that quickly. That is not our big news for today. As you can see from this, we have an introduction to a new product. Yes, that's right. Arcade games are coming to the Polymega. You're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Polymega is a retro console meant to archive your physical media. How are arcade games coming to the Polymega? And why are arcade games coming to the Polymega? Well, with the announcement of the new Polymega collection, we have two new Polymega exclusive game collections that can only be played on the Polymega. And so let's just jump right into it. Of course, they're also giving us an update on the long awaited OS update that should return some of the pre purchased included games that disappeared with the last update, and two, fix the crashing and lockup bug that has been plaguing many. It's so bad that some people have taken to replacing the CPU within the Polymega, going to another IBM Celeron and actually installing that, of which Polymega says, please don't do that. You don't know what impact it'll have on future updates. We have a fix. Just wait for that new OS update. Well, here we are nearly a year later, and they're finally giving us some details, but we don't yet have a time frame. So let's just jump into it. So at long last, Polymega System Software Update version 1.132 will be releasing any day now. And with the news comes some great features that we've been hard at work on over the last few months. Well, what have you been doing all the other months? And we want to share them with you. Of course, that is Polymega Collection, and we talked about that. It is brand new physical media. As you can see, these will work with your Polymega base unit, so you don't need any modulars. And they come in a jewel case with a specific spine type that is popular in Europe and Japan. I have a few sitting back here. If you've ever seen a Japanese PlayStation game or some of the Dreamcast games, things like that, you know what we're talking about in the PAL region and in Japan. So each of these releases include one or more discs that are compatible with the Polymega. The first is the primary game in DVD format. Additionally, some releases include bonus game discs that can be played on original game consoles as well. Each release is region free and will work on Polymega regardless of where you are, what language you speak. So as it mentions, the first releases here are arcade games. So there is no original console, but they're making a promise to us that in future games, they could be console-based games, and they should work on your regular console. Now, here's the deal. Polymega also announced several years ago that they were going to have a store. They said if we were a beta orderer, we would get early access to this store. In fact, at the time they said you'd get it within a month or two. Well, we're now almost 2 years past that announcement. We still don't have a store. So the promise of new Polymega collections, let's wait and see. I will say they've broken many, many promises, but at least after long waits, they are delivering on those promises. So we will see if and when we will ever get that online storefront that'll allow us to play our collections on our PCs and other things. And it says, like, unlike most modern games, Polymega Collection games include carefully crafted visual companions, reversible slip covers, OB spines, that's the stuff popular in PAL and Japanese regions, for international collectors, and more. And exclusively for early adopters, a limited edition Polymega collector pin is included with each release. Now, before we get into these releases, and I do want to show you these, especially you home arcade fans, this may be something that appeals to you, is these are available right now. So these two collections that they are announcing today are available for pre-order and will ship in 1 to 2 weeks. So unlike everything else they've done in the past where you're waiting 2 to 3 to 4 years, these are going to come in a matter of weeks, not years. So that's a huge difference from Polymega. Of course, they could still break those promises, but within just saying, hey, it ships in 1 to 2 weeks, means they've already pressed these. They've already probably got them. They just need to pack up the orders as they come in. So the best thing about the Polymega collection is that in many cases, we're bringing games to Polymega that would otherwise be unplayable using an element module, such as arcade games. Of course, we're also providing support for several new systems that might not otherwise be compatible with the Polymega. My guess is they're trying to hint here at Dreamcast, because they've said in the past they were unable to do Dreamcast because of the type of drive required to bring the Dreamcast to the system. So maybe they're hoping they can get licensed for some Dreamcast games, and that's how they're going to build the gap. We'll see. So now immerse yourself in lifelike arcade action. And this is something that is pretty cool. They call it immersive mode, but we're just going to call it what it is. They are giving you support for not only the bezel so that it feels like you're playing the right game, but you also get Tate mode. Tate mode, for those who aren't unclear, if you're not a home arcade fan or an arcade fan and you're more of a retro console, Tate mode is when you turn that screen 90 degrees so it's facing up and down lengthwise instead of the normal horizontal mode. So you're in vertical mode. A lot of arcade games are designed for that vertical 4x3 mode. Things like shooters, Pac-Man, you name it, come in that vertical mode. And so now with Polymega, they will support you actually turning your HDTV into vertical mode so you can play these games in the mode in which they were originally designed. And here you see two examples of them, the bezels, both in horizontal and in vertical mode. And the vertical mode, as you can see, is giving you the marquee, it's giving you the bezels, it's even letting you see the control panel. So pretty interesting how that works, and could lead to some creative uses of this device to build multicades and things like that. Again, you would be relying on Polymega releasing these titles, however, so that has yet to be seen. And of course, we're getting a glimpse at one of our first titles here. From here, you can enter the virtual display controls, adjust your view to zoom out, zoom in, more of the machine, or even rotate your view in the monitor so that you can see the arcade machine's upright entirety, perfect for vertical shooters and other games you're sure to want to play as you build out your Polymega collection library. Here we see Lunar Lander. We're working with some of the best game publishers from across the console gaming landscape and have done dozens of games in production for the coming months. The best news, the first two Polymega collections, Asteroids and Karate Champ, are available for purchase today and will ship within the next week. Check out the new games section of polymega.com to see what's offered. So let's take a look at that, shall we? And here are the first two collections. As we jump into Asteroids, you see these are coming at a price of $39.99. So not an inexpensive purchase by any means, especially for a game created in the 70s. You see what you get with this is the jewel case, looks like a booklet, the disc, and here is your collector pen. This game in particular obviously covers Asteroids, but it has a few other games on here. It talks about immersing yourself in the rotation, really standing machine, as well as the new Atari Lynx LCD and Quadrascan. So these are new virtual display modes. So things like mimicking CRTs at scan lines, stuff like that. You're now getting ones that let you look at the machine itself. Here you can see a whole host of the games included on this collection. So you got Orbit, you've got Asteroids, you've got Gravitar, Lunar Lander, and Space Duel. So we got Asteroids Deluxe as well. So let's go back here and we'll see the list of games. Of course, as we mentioned, Orbit Arcade, Gravitar Arcade and 2600 version, Lunar Lander 2600, Asteroids in Arcade 2600 and 7800 versions, Asteroid Deluxe in the arcade, Super Asteroids and Missile Command for the Atari Lynx, and then Space Duel. Of course, it says Companion, blah, 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 all these things. But here is the Atari Lynx display option. So it lets you look like you're playing and staring at a giant version of the Atari Lynx screen. That is pretty interesting in and of itself. So there's the games that come with the Polymega Asteroids collection. Let's take a look at Karate Champ. And of course, here we have our Data East titles coming in. Much the same thing. Let's just jump right down to the games list. And you'll see here we have Karate Champ Arcade, NES, and Famicom Disk System. We have Karate Champ PvP, the arcade game. We have Fighters History Arcade, Super NES, and Super Famicom. Fighters History, for those who don't know, that's Data East version of Street Fighter 2. Capcom took Data East to court, and if you take a look at this title, it is super interesting. It is almost a one-to-one copy of Street Fighter. They simply just barely changed the look and the background of each character, but really mimic Street Fighter closer than anybody else. So it's really interesting to dig into the history of that lawsuit and that story. And maybe someday we'll do that here on the channel. But it also comes with Fighters History Dynamite, Karnov's Revenge, the Arcade, AES, Neo Geo CD, and Saturn system. So that is very cool. You get some Neo Geo versions of the game. Let's take a look at the display views. Of course, these are our arcade cabinets. So we're seeing the marquees, the bezels, those control panels, and of course, Fighter's History here looks like it's coming on a Dynamo HS5, which is that classic Street Fighter 2 championship cabinet. We have Karate Champ with our dual sticks, and of course, the Neo Geo arcade system. This is Big Red, but it's only a 2-game version, so very cool that you have that look. And here is another up-close version of Karate Champ. That's our announcement on new products. So let's talk about the update, shall we? So, of course, we have coming is the system software update 1.1.32. This is the one we've been waiting on to stop the crashes of the system. It's got the new and improved virtual display filters with multi-depth scanline modes, an improved composite filter, a new RF and black and white modes. So finally excited to get some new display modes. Of course, that is going to be what's required for these new collections. And then it's also building in hundreds of new Atari Twix 2600 and 7800 games have been added to the Polymega database to get you ready for the release of the upcoming Atari Pro module. And of course, we've talked about here on this channel several times that when Atari made a life-saving investment into Polymega, that part of that deal was that Polymega would produce an Atari 2600 7800 cartridge module for the system so you could play your original Atari carts on the Polymega. Also part of that deal is the yet unfulfilled Polymega eShop. The eShop is also supposed to now be ported to the Atari VCS to expand that console to all those retro games that you convert through the Polymega and can play on your PC or the Atari VCS now. Fortunately, we still don't know where that software is. So I got a question, why are they busy designing these new game collections and putting in all the development work there? What happened to the eShop system? Wouldn't these have been a great launch alongside the eShop so we could buy them digitally instead of just physical versions? Maybe that's part of a future announcement, but we're still wondering, where is that stuff? And of course, now some of the other updates in this is the ability to permanently restore most of the original PM01 packing games that were removed in a previous update. Of course, we mentioned that earlier. Some critical games disappeared that you thought you were going to get by purchasing this system, by pre-ordering, by being an early backer of this project that took more than 5 years to finally come out. And then for most of us, we didn't get them until after they deleted a bunch of these games on accident. So now we're getting some of those back, thankfully. But this again goes into the problem of digital media and why systems like Polymega and Analog are so important to be able to support your physical medium so that companies cannot rip away your digital goods. And finally, bug fixes for latency issues, unwanted noise effects, and more. I find it interesting here that they have not commented on the crashes or the lockups. This is something they've promised and said is fixed in this update numerous times in the past, over the past 9 to 12 months. And yet we don't have any mention of it here, which makes me wonder if it is indeed actually fixed. And for those of us that have been battling through those freeze ups, are we going to be more likely to have to look for one of those old Celeron chips in order to upgrade our system to avoid these lockups? Because really they feel less like a software problem and far more like a chip issue or a heating issue. And so a lot of people have been doing that upgrade. You can find lots of videos on it. It's not something I necessarily recommend based on Polymega saying they have it fixed. I would definitely take a wait and see at this point. Hopefully this will release here within the next week because the new games are shipping within the week, they said. But if it doesn't come and if it doesn't fix those lockup issues with this update, I have to think it could be another year before we see another software update. And are we willing to continue to deal with these issues for another year? So let's hope Polymega sticks to what they said and it fixes that issue. So that's all I have for you on the new Polymega update just released today. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this something that makes you want to get into the Polymega ecosystem if you're not already? If you are you excited about this new update? Are you excited about these new Polymega collection games? I, for one, I'm really big fan of the home arcade stuff, and I don't know if this is for me. It's a nice add-on. It's not something I'm probably willing to pay $40 on. These games cost much less than that. But it is cool that they are doing something like this. I just wish they would focus and spend more time on what they told us they were going to deliver, and less on bringing us crazy new things. So we'll see how the next few weeks and months go. But there it is, big Polymega update. So hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. And until next time, have fun.